Hello, Hollywood Times viewers. Today we welcome public historian, writer, and host of KCET's documentary series, Lost LA, Nathan Masters. Hi, Nathan. How you doing?
Hi, doing great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I was just told that you and I talked back in 2019. Where has the time gone?
I know. Yeah, I know. And it's almost like nothing's happened since then, right? No. Yeah, no, it's been a crazy few years, but so excited to have Lost LA back on the air, and we have 5 great episodes coming out.
This is your 5th season, right?
It is. It is. Yeah,
been...
we started way back in 2016. January 2016 was when the first season came out, and yeah, we've just been working. We took a little break, of course, for COVID, as did many programs, but we're back on with the 5th season, and we're looking forward to more.
So, Nathan, what did you actually do during the pandemic? What kept you and your family busy?
Well, I mean, I have a full-time job at the USC libraries, and the show is a co-production of KCET and the USC libraries, which adds a lot of authenticity to it. I think what we try to do is we tell stories about LA history around the archives, around archival objects. We find these really interesting objects that are in a box somewhere in a library, and try to ask how can this unlock this previously unseen or hidden world. And so while we weren't doing the show, I still have a lot of duties at the libraries. That was keeping me busy. I've been writing a book. I signed a book deal about a year ago, and the book will be coming out probably next year. So I've been, even without Lost LA, I've been staying pretty busy.
What's your book going to be about?
It is about, it has nothing to do with LA, which might surprise some people, but it's a roaring 20s narrative nonfiction thriller about the most corrupt attorney general in American history, and this maverick senator who takes him on.
Wow, well, I look forward to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just finished the manuscript. I'm happy to have that behind me now.
Cool. I wanted to ask, as far as Lost LA, who chooses the topic and those featured on each episode?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a sort of a core production team, people from KCET and the USC. It's a true co-production. We get together as soon as we hear that the season has been greenlit, and we talk about what sort of stories we want to tell. Sometimes, and actually we talk about what sort of stories we want to tell, and sometimes it's also what sort of objects are there out there that we want to tell a story around, right? Sometimes we start with that. And usually there are way too many ideas, and we have to pare them down, which is great for when the next season rolls around.
Well, I know it premiered last week, March 19th, with Who Killed the Red Car, and there's so much history there. And those people, I heard that after the broadcast, each episode will stream at kcet.org/LostLA, PBSSoCal.org/LostLA, and the free PBS app. So that's great, because folks, you need to really see Who Killed the Red Car. It's amazing. The one coming up this Saturday, March 26th, is Winemaking, my favorite. So let's talk about winemaking. That must have been pretty cool, the things I saw you do. And
it was, I mean, and I not only, I picked grapes, but I didn't just pick grapes. I picked grapes from the oldest vine in Los Angeles. It turns out on Olvera Street, right in the middle of downtown LA, there's a grapevine that's probably about 200 years old. And our city archivist, who's sort of my guest on this episode, he figured this out about 5-6 years ago, and he happens to be a home winemaker. So he started making wine from these grapes with the permission of the city of LA. He made an old style of fortified wine called Angelica, which I had never heard of before this, but it was pretty cool to be a part of that process, and then learn sort of about the deep and complicated history behind winemaking in California. It started way back in the Mission period. There was a lot of forced labor exploitation, it sort of had an ugly start, but it's kind of come full circle where there are today there's this growing movement of like even indigenous winemakers within California. So everything's, we're sort of telling this grand story about winemaking. It's interesting to see how things have changed over the past 200 years.
One of the things that I learned from, we got a sneak peek of this episode. So all you viewers out there, it's really amazing to watch, whether you like wine or not. It's just to see how I heard on your show that the wine was kind of just grown on the ground, and how these workers used to have to like spread their legs to pick it. And I thought, who even thought of that? That was amazing to learn that.
Yeah, because today, if you picture a vineyard, you picture these beautifully trellised vines, and they're usually, as tall as I am, right? And you walk down them. Yeah, no, before everybody had to hunch over to pick the grapes. And that was work that was imposed on California natives by the Spanish missionaries for several decades. And then later on, immigrants from Mexico, China, Japan took up the task. And it was hard work. And it was only recently where California started trellising its vines. It's still hard work, but it's just you don't have to bend over as much.
Yeah, I was born and kind of grew up in Cucamonga, as it was called back in the day. And we had vineyards. When I was a kid, we lived next door to a vineyard where I used to race my pony down between the vines, and and never even paid attention to what they were, bite them, eat them and stuff. They were little tiny grapes. And I was like, wow, that was kind of cool to, learn things about in this particular episode.
Well, and Rancho Cucamonga was one of the winemaking centers of California, right? Like Los Angeles was, which is downtown LA, which is surprising, but Rancho Cucamonga was too. My own hometown of Anaheim was also a winemaking center until this blight, this sort of I think fungus spread through and killed off most of the grapevines, and then they turned over to oranges. But yeah, there are so many places like the wine before the movies, right? Before Hollywood, before oil, wine was the #1 industry in Los Angeles. I'm talking about like the 1870s.
Right. I mean, that's what's so great about all of these shows. It's history. I mean, we all love history, and especially if you live in Los Angeles, these are great shows, and they should be available for schools. I mean, they're amazing.
Well, thank you. And we actually do, we do have a curriculum project that creates lesson plans that are pegged to the statewide curriculum standards to bring segments and entire episodes into the classroom. But thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I make sure that my grandkids, always wanting them to learn, to watch this, because it's history and it's so fascinating.
Thanks. Yeah, it's important for Southern Californians to know their history.
Yes. Let's talk about some of the other episodes coming up. You have prehistoric landscapes. That one was fascinating. Seeing you in a lab coat was pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah, I actually got to excavate. I mean, I did the final part of the work, right? The hard work was done for me, but I got to excavate a 40,000-year-old jaw, a fossil from the La Brea tar pits. And then I was able to clean it off, which is just sort of like a day in the life for some people who work there. They have really amazing jobs. But the whole episode is about what we, how we can take these fossils and actually, more importantly, the little microfossils that have often been overlooked, like the little specks of pollen or microscopic shell fragments, and how we can take those and what they can tell us about what the landscape was like 10,000 years ago, 20, 40, 50,000 years ago. And there's a lot of really interesting work being done right now at the La Brea tar pits. They're making some pretty interesting discoveries, and it was really cool to sort of be there while that work was going on. That's cool. And that episode airs April 2nd. The next one is German exile. That was pretty interesting too. You can never get enough of that information. Yeah, and I think that's probably something that your readers and viewers will probably be most interested in, right? Because we get into Hollywood a lot in that, and sort of an unacknowledged contribution, largely unacknowledged contribution, right, from from this group of predominantly Jewish, German-speaking exiles who fled the horrors of the Nazis during or in the years leading to World War II. They found sanctuary in Southern California. Many of them happened to be like the leading writers, artists, film directors in Europe. And a lot of them found jobs in Hollywood. In fact, Hollywood, in many cases, provided jobs to help their visa applications go through, right? Hollywood actually, in some cases, saved their lives and then gave them jobs. It worked out great for some of them. I mean, like Billy Wilder, right? One of Hollywood's, the most successful directors in Hollywood history. He was among these exiles. Others, unfortunately, things didn't work out so great for them. Some of them had leftist political leanings, and it didn't quite fit into the post-war Red Scare political atmosphere, unfortunately. Some of them were actually deported. Bertolt Brecht, Hans Eisler, who were leading towering figures in Europe. They couldn't stay in the United States. A little bit of a bittersweet ending.
Yeah,
that one.
But very interesting about the whole Hollywood connection. That does make it interesting.
Yeah.
And that one airs Saturday, April 9th. The next one is, I really like this one too. From Little Tokyo to Crenshaw. So interesting. I mean, I learned a lot from that segment.
I mean, so did I. I had never heard of this story before. I had no idea, because when I think of Crenshaw, I think of it being, the heart of Black Los Angeles, right? It's like this vibrant cultural center, along with like Leimert Park. And I had no idea that it was also one of the leading centers for Japanese Americans in Los Angeles in mostly in the years right after World War II. There's for me, at least, it was this untold story of Japanese Americans returning from the incarceration camps like Manzanar and having to sort of rebuild their lives and rebuild their communities, right? Because they had lost their gathering places, the businesses they worked at, the businesses like the coffee shops, they had to rebuild all that, and they did it in Crenshaw. So we dig into that.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. The one gentleman you spoke to, Nick, he was very interesting, what he did for the young youth. That was pretty awesome.
He did some amazing work, yeah, and he gave me a few basketball pointers too. That was basketball. It was fun to shoot. I had not played basketball for 20 years, but that was actually how he brought young Asian American kids together, was through basketball, teaching them about their culture and their history. And yeah, he was an amazing man.
Yeah, and then also Joy, how she interacted, had Japanese friends, and she learned to speak Japanese, didn't she?
She did, yeah. So she grew up among this Japanese American community and thought, why can't I go to so most of these kids grew up speaking English as their first language. Yeah. So the community put together a school where the children could learn Japanese. She was not Japanese, right? She was Black, but she said, why can't I learn Japanese? So her parents sent her there, and she did, and she became fluent in Japanese. A great story. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
And she's doing amazing work around Crenshaw too. She's sort of like leading the arts initiative for Destination Crenshaw, trying to make sure that Crenshaw's African American heritage is reflected in sort of the built environment and public art projects.
Yeah. And that one airs Saturday, April 16th. So some great, amazing shows. You guys did a great job picking which ones. Again, they've all been great from way back when they started.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
So what else do you have coming up now? Working on anything else besides the book?
Yeah. The book is, I'm looking forward to that. We're talking about, the potential for more seasons. So there's always that to look forward to. Yeah, it's exciting times.
Oh, I'll guarantee you these seasons are going to continue to go. There's just way too much that we don't know about in LA. It's such a huge place, and the history here is you're going to keep going until that beard's gray, Nathan.
Yeah, we could do 100 seasons easily.
Right? Easily.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So do you have any special memories from any of the episodes coming up you want to share?
Yes. I mean, the one that, there was something amazing in every episode that I did, but the one that really stands out was I got to drive an old streetcar. This was in the episode that just aired. I never thought they'd let me do it. I mean, I thought for sure I would derail it, but there's a place called the Southern California Railway Museum, which is in Paris in the Inland Empire. They have like dozens of these old streetcars, perfectly preserved and restored. And they have a little track that goes in a loop. They let me run it. And I'll tell you, first of all, you're not supposed to say drive. It is not, you do not drive it, you're operating it. But it's nothing like driving a car. It is, there's no pedals, there's little handles, and you have to, anyway, it's too hard for me to explain, but that really stood out. I mean, picking the grapes was amazing. Playing basketball with Nick. I mean, I just, and that's true of every season. I just have the most amazing memories from making the show.
Now, I did see the episode with the red car. Tell our viewers, how did you get down to that museum so that we can get some people down there? Metrolink, right?
Yes, yeah, we took the Metrolink. That's right. There's a Metrolink that stationed pretty close to the museum. The challenge will be getting the last mile there from the station to the railway museum itself. But there's a Metrolink, or I think you just take Highway 60 out. You take the 60 out.
215 south.
There you go.
Exactly.
We are still a car oriented city these days, but things are changing.
Well, the gas prices being so, downtown LA has a Chevron and it's $7.56 a gallon. It is so crazy. So people, you need to get on the train and, and support that, the environment as well. Totally. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for taking the time. If you have anything else to share with us before we go.
No, just what you already said it, actually. We're, it's streaming for free on the PBS app, on our website, kcet.org/LostLA. And we're on KCET and PBS SoCal, I think Saturday evenings for KCET and Tuesday evenings for PBS SoCal.
Great. So then they can stream it as well. So you can always catch anything you missed, try to catch it when it comes out. But if you miss it, you can go and stream it, right?
There you go.
All right. Well, you keep plugging out there, and where are you dialing from? Actually, where are you calling us from?
I am calling from Idlewild, California. Living up in the mountains these days. Yep, commuting down to LA when I need to, but spending the bulk of my time up here. It's beautiful. The snow's melted away, but it's I have cedar and pine trees outside. I can take a hike every day if I want to.
How was your winter up there?
It was not as much snow as I remember from the year before. It was a drier winter, but I love having the 4 seasons up here, right? Which is something that you don't get. I mean, I never got growing up in Southern California, right, in Orange County. It's great. It's great for a little change to have some snow in the winter time.
It's amazing how you could just drive out the 10 freeway and see that mountain and go, what is that? Take the road off, and all of a sudden you're going up this mountain. It's like, where has it been, all my life? Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And Idlewild is a charming town. It's a lot of little boutique shops, art shops. We have sort of like one of everything up here. It's not as big and sprawling a settlement as Big Bear. Primarily because we don't have a ski resort, right? So things are just a little bit more low key.
And you also have a dog that's the mayor up there too.
There it is. Yeah, I think his name's Mayor Max. Mayor Max. That's right, a golden retriever.
Pretty cool, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's a dog loving town for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate yours. Thanks so much for talking to me, Judy.
No problem. You have a great day.
You too.